Plans to Places, the podcast where we explore the stories behind bold ideas that shape the communities that we love. I'm Debbie Jones, the Director of Business Development and Marketing for CEI, and today we are talking about something close to the hearts of many growing cities, trails. So trails are not just about recreation. They're about connection between neighborhoods, cities, economies, and people. And on today's episode, I'm joined by two leaders behind one of the most ambitious and transformative trail systems in the country, the Razorback Greenway in Northwest Arkansas. So welcome.
Thank you.
First, we have Matt Mihaljevic, the Active Transportation Manager for Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Aaron Rushing, a nationally respected Master Trails consultant, who work together along with a unique coalition of community champions to guide the vision and the execution of this incredible project. Speaking of community champions, also joining us is Ryan Evitz, leader of CEI's nationally focused landscape architecture and outdoor recreation. So, welcome, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us today.
Of course.
So, this has been a real gem in our community. From my perspective, looking at business and development and marketing for the area as a whole, it's been amazing to hear the story of the Razorback Greenway and how it is really woven into the history of these communities. So I thought today would be a great opportunity for us to just talk about how that project came to fruition. I know that there are so many players involved, but I thought you guys had really unique perspectives involved in the process. So let's kind of get everybody caught up to speed about Razorback Greenway, just in case there are a couple of newbies out there. So maybe you guys can help us understand what was the original vision behind Razorback Greenway, and how has that vision evolved over time?
I can speak for Fayetteville. Early on in 2001, Fayetteville got our community together and got our residents and had created our first master plan called the Fayetteville Alternative and Trails Master Plan, or the FAT plan, which is kind of ironic. That actually has the opposite effect. But what I like about that plan is it really truly was community driven, and people get their markers out on plans and draw out the trail corridors. In Fayetteville, we have a lot of topography, so a lot of hills, and so naturally our trails follow our streams and our creeks. And particularly in Fayetteville, we have a stream called Skull Creek that runs north-south from like Dixon Street area all the way to Clear Creek and Johnson area. So that is now the Razorback Greenway through Fayetteville. But at that time, it was the Skull Creek Trail, and a big focus of getting that constructed. When we had that adopted master plan in 2003, it was adopted. Something else really pivotal for Fayetteville is that in 2005, the city council created a crew that builds the trails. So that's a 9-member city workers that have been building the trails since that time for the last 20 years. So they really get it dialed in, and it's a more cost-effective way to build the trails and less on the front end as far as full design, and it has really proven to be kind of Fayetteville's secret sauce for getting the trails together. And then so kind of once that started, I mean, I think we can talk more regionally. We had the Skull Creek Trail completed in 2008, and then people started thinking, well, what if we could connect the whole region of Northwest Arkansas with a trail? Like, wow, that's a bold idea.
Well, and there were pieces in Bentonville that had already been constructed too. So you had some stuff going on. Bentonville had some work going on and the concept was like, hey, it would be cool if we could connect it all. And that led us to 2010.
So what happened in 2010 that changed it? So one thing I think that is interesting is y'all's role at the time. So I know your roles are different now, but at the time you guys had such a unique perspective from each of the cities. So help us get a little context there.
Well, I was a designer at CI Engineering, and I was one of the first people here on the ground doing trail design in Bentonville. And I was fortunate enough to build some of the Razorback Greenway back in the early 2000s. That eventually became the Razorback Greenway, but Yeah. 2010, Active Transportation Committee, I'm sure Matt will speak about, but there was an opportunity to apply for a federal grant, Tiger II grant. And as part of that Active Transportation Committee, we applied for a grant for, I think it was $25 million, and we're awarded $15 million in 2010. And it was, I say all that because you can start small. I mean, you can be a small committee and get a big project. And Matt, you can speak to the committee. I think you were the chair.
I don't want to give a shout out to Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission, that they were very instrumental. And this committee, the Active Transportation Committee, is through them. It's a subcommittee of the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission, and they really spearheaded the project. But it was we started meeting and said, well, what if we could do this bold idea of connecting the community, and then with the help from private sponsors as well, and the Tiger II grant, then it really started to come together. And it was really interesting to see these communities really embrace trails at that time, like Springdale, Lowell, Johnson. They were kind of like, okay, this could be good.
They were in the middle, and they really didn't have much for trails. Not much built. Fayetteville had trails, Bentonville had trails, and they were in the middle, didn't have any trails. So yeah, they learned a lot.
They learned a lot, and they've just completely embraced them now.
It's perfect segue, because what you guys said was, hey, we're basically at the ends of the Greenway in some regards. Today it's a little further north than
two counties. We're in two different counties.
Two counties, two opposing ends of the trail system, and you both had kind of independent things going on. But how do you get from two communities where there's some momentum to a couple of these communities that you mentioned where it was a brand new concept, right? You mentioned the Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission, but kind of unfold that process a little bit from your perspective, because it's a big idea that requires a lot of support to get from we have an idea and some momentum to we have a plan and a Tiger II grant, right? There's a lot of middle ground.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly helped for those communities to get on board by having this project funded. Basically it was sort of, okay, this is funded.
So the momentum came through, hey, we've got a grant to actually
we're doing
a significant portion bill.
But like I said, those community leaders in all the cities just really embraced it. And we called it back then, they kind of put away the Friday night lights, like the high school competitiveness, and said, hey, let's do this. We're together. And that was really, I think, amazing to see that Northwest Arkansas has unity of a team effort. Like, yeah, let's do this.
Six cities, two counties, all come together for one project, and it was really cool to watch.
So it is interesting. It sounds like it started really humble beginnings, lots of grassroots ideas, and you had the organization. You had a lot of people that were boots on the ground that were really interested. When you talk and you think how far it's come from the ideas of 2001 to the funding in 2010, I have to tell you that last year I went to Crested Butte, and we took it was the FAT plan, because we took the lift up to the mountain, and it's not walking up to the mountain. Yeah, so we took the lift up. Yeah. But it was amazing underneath the lift. They had created all of these downhill mountain bike trails. And so we do our thing up top. We can ride back down, and at the bottom they have that volunteer that's helping everybody dismount. And so she's having a conversation and asks where we're from. And I said, Bentonville. And she said, what a great area. That is where we all go during down season. And I'm like, where is my phone? That was unprompted. It was amazing to me to see that you guys had reached such a level of recognition and quality and depth in what you created that it is a favorite of cyclists and bicyclists of all levels. But it just blew me away that was just unprompted.
Yeah, I had a similar thing. I was just renting skis at Keystone, Colorado, and the guy renting there, I told him where I was from, and he's like, oh, our employee that wasn't there, used to be there, loved coming here so much that he moved here. So they were kind of bummed, like, your region took him away.
And I think that's the piece that doesn't always get talked about. You mentioned Transportation Committee. In the beginning, you guys were talking about trails. So where did you link it to active transportation to really start down that road? Where did that start in the conversation?
Yeah, I can speak for Fayetteville. We have had transportation kind of always as the core principle of our plan. Feeling like if we can really connect people with their destinations and give them that option to, to go for a different way of getting to their destinations of on a bike or foot, can really help him impact our congestion, our vehicle congestion. So always kind of built in there, and we felt like connecting parks, and then that ties into recreation too. But yeah.
I think there was a hope in the beginning in 2010. It was a lot of recreation. People weren't riding their bike to work. I mean, we were hoping they would be used for more active transportation, and it has, especially now the e-bikes are really changing the way. We should have built it bigger. We should have built it wider. There's so much activity on it now. But yeah, I think in the beginning it was a lot of recreation, and then with the hope that it would be more active transportation, and it has. It's really worked.
It's amazing. So it sounds like there were some real challenges in the beginning that you guys kind of worked way through. I think, first of all, it sounded like you stated your intention, so it was happening. So what were some of the biggest challenges, do you think?
I would go say, it was, a property acquisition, easement acquisition. And, you take the, pieces of the Razorback were built on the north end, on the south end, but there's this big chunk in the middle, like 20 miles in the middle. And there was 129 property owners in the middle, up and down this spine. That was one of the biggest challenges. The other piece of it was a federal project. So you can imagine the federal red tape and going through the procurement process with easements and right-of-way. It was a challenging design standards, meeting the federal process, and going through that with the highway department. It was hard, but what was amazing is that we did it really quick. Yeah. From, we cut the last ribbon in 2015. So it was start 2010 and ended up in 2015. That was 5 years for a 40-mile trail system was pretty amazing. But at the time, it was hard. It was really hard, and it was a grind. But we had a good team and a lot of support, so that helped a lot.
That number 129, that is not a number that you seem uncertain about.
No, and
so that sounds like a lot of conversations.
A lot of conversations. And, we had a lot of public meetings up front. And I remember specifically in Springdale, there were people that showed up these public meetings beating their fist on the table. And they were mad. And we were going to take their land and we were going to decrease their property values. But it was hard. It was challenging, but we stayed with it. And look at what we've got. And
some of those early days, people didn't really understand the benefits that the trail brings. It actually increases property values and not decreased. So we would have a lot of that, like almost, I guess, fear of unknown, what it's going to do. Bringing those people, that's what they say, those people who are those people that turns out they're families and they're your neighbors that are going to be coming through there on that trail. And they're not going to be hauling your flat screen TV with them.
Right.
And breaking in and all that. And so, it's been nice that we've been able to sort of prove that, my favorite thing is whenever a property owner wanted a fence, that's part of a lot of the deals is, okay, a fence. Well, then later they cut a gate in there.
I was going to say.
They want access. I'm good training. Yeah. So it has... Yeah, it's just a learning.
I remember a particular neighborhood that every one of them, there's like 10 property owners in a row, and we had an easement already through the city of Rogers, and they all wanted fences, and we built them fences, and then later I go back and ride it. A few months later, it's open. Every single one of them had a gate cut in and get ends. Yeah.
Nice.
I love that. That is proof.
It is proof.
I think that's proof.
Yeah, and they were not happy with the trail in their backyard, but I'm like, look, you already got an easement there. You're not much you can do about it at this point.
Yeah, now the narrative's taken a 180, right? Because you talked about the marketing capacity of owning a home that's directly connected to the claim scene. Like, that's huge, right?
You look at every real estate listing, it's proximity to a town.
So I'm sure they were thanking us later when they sold their house.
The card's probably in the mail. Right?
They never have the card. But I haven't had with any of the property owners that I've worked with, which is hundreds as well. Anyone saying, call me like, oh my gosh, that was the worst thing I've ever done. Like, I wish I never signed that easement over. They won't be sending thank you notes, but at least they wouldn't be just like, they'll know that it was.
And it's gotten easier. I know you're still in it, still doing it. And it's gotten easier. The more you can educate people, the more they can see the benefits and they can touch it and feel it. It is stuff. The easement right away acquisition piece of it has gotten easier.
The other thing that I really like about what you said, City of Fayetteville sounded like they were very intentional about this was their plan. And most people, or it would appear, that the maintenance department develops after the trails. So as need goes, and there's a transition period, but for you to really plan up front a maintenance department and understand the quality and how it comes together, feels like that would be a great conversation and information. Also, how you guys maintain the trails, that could really impact the design of it.
Absolutely.
What are some ways that your maintenance department has impacted the design? And we'll be cutting this question and moving it.
Yeah, early on, I think about our bridges. Like, we learned that wood planked bridges, that's a bad idea. And so concrete decking on our bridges, weathering steel, cortin.
You know, one of the things in the maintenance piece of it, you had 6 cities, some were new to maintenance. You want this to be a cohesive project and all look, you didn't really want to know where you moved from one city to the next. The maintenance piece of it, because each city was responsible for maintenance, the maintenance was different as you went from city to city. Some weren't maintaining it as well as they should have early on. And everybody got better. They would look at their other cities and like, oh, their city looks really good. Well, we probably need to up our game, mow a little bit more, a little bit better. And but yeah, some of the cities were new to maintenance early on. So
I've been really impressed with the city of Johnson. I mean, they were all new to trail.
They didn't have a trail,
and it's butts with Fayetteville, but they're part of their trail just looks like a golf course in through there.
It was a learning curve. I feel like there was a learning curve early on when they first were gifted the trail.
Yeah, you got to kind of ramp up for that maintenance.
Well, I think maybe that question evolves a little bit from were there materials or configurations that were used early on that were identified to be, inferior or,
Other than flex posts, that'd probably be
we
like flexible paint.
We had some asphalt trails, but over the years we've learned that concrete is really going to be superior. If you get into the details of it, saw cut joints compared to tool joints. It was big, and we were learning that through the Razorback Greenway. Like, what are these decent bigger radiuses?
Yeah,
but better signage. So it was hard to start with, but we now see why we went that extra step and why we tried to keep everything under 5%. So it was
something we had an advantage in this region is that a lot of the best practices of trail design had kind of been more established by the time we were building it. A lot of other cities across the country built their trails, 30 years ago, and was able to learn from them. And one of the bigger ones is the width. Just going with 12 feet, which Aaron already mentioned is not wide enough. And we have sections now that are 16, even, as we see the busier sections like Lake Fayetteville Dam. But I feel so fortunate for our region to be able to have learned from those other communities in the country for the best practices, including concrete. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that's really incredible because it does cost more up front, but it's going to pay us so much dividends in the future. We're going to have a trail that lasts 100 years potentially,
And we're not talking just a 4-inch slab. We're talking 6-inch slab.
Most of it is
fiber reinforced. I'm sure that
fiber reinforcement,
over time as well.
learned fiber reinforcement.
Yeah.
The Razorback. And that's now it's kind of the standard.
And cool. Yeah, it's going to serve us so well. I'm just so pleased with that.
Well, you mentioned Johnson, which is kind of a perfect segue. Johnson is a very small community in Arkansas. And they were new, but in that experience for a small community in general that is just starting out. So what are some of the first steps in exploring a trail project? Johnson sounds like he can stay where.
Well,
for us,
I would say, I've been involved in it from the start, and you have too, Matt. I would say is you think you can't do it, but you really can, and have a plan, develop a master plan. The master plan is the best thing you can do is come up with a plan, vet it through the community, get the community buy-in, and you simply start with a small committee and some small grassroots, and don't think you can't do it. Don't think it's too big. We can't do it because you can't. We we've done it. So
Yeah, and chip away from that plan. You can also apply for grant funding. So there's recreational trails program, there's transportation alternatives program through RDOT, carbon reduction programs, another one. So those are annual funding sources that you have this plan. You say, okay, maybe let's focus on this trail. It's going to also recommend figuring out that trail that's going to really make an impact to the community as far as connecting. Maybe it's connecting a school to a neighborhood or some other destination. And start with that one, because that would be the most successful, and then it kind of like a snowball effect. It can gain momentum.
And all of it takes time. You have to be patient. I mean, what we have here today is, I think, probably 220 miles in the region of paved trails, and it took 25, maybe 30 years. We didn't have any probably 30 years ago. And look, I think the number's 200 and something.
Okay.
So
yeah.
So you've mentioned the 129 owners. And one of the big questions is, how do you determine, how would you pick the best path? Does that come later? You talked about master planning. Does that come early?
That was part of the design process, is picking the best route that didn't adversely affect, like Matt said earlier, we try to follow drainage patterns, but there were early on designs. We vetted the project out. I remember walking it from end to end, the piece that wasn't designed in the middle, and trying to figure out, is it best as a shared use facility? Is it best following a utility corridor? And we have all of those scenarios. Some of it was on public streets as cycle tracks. So, you have to go through that design process to figure out who you're impacting and who you need to talk to.
So I know one of the things that comes to my mind when you start talking about, the 10 people in Rogers as the example you used previously, help the people who are listening kind of walk through that not in my backyard mentality that you discussed. Because from a crime prevention standpoint alone, you talked about everybody wanting a fence, right? So it creates this barrier, this line of sight barrier between people who are trying to have a private experience in their backyard and people who are on the trail having a very otherwise public experience. But the best thing to deter criminal activity is put eyes on their facility, right? So you've created this corridor where there's this opportunity for more crime versus opening it up and saying, no, we're going to monitor. We live here. It's like the neighborhood watch program. We're going to watch everybody who goes by and make sure that what they're doing is within alignment of the expectation from a social perspective. So talk about that perception of, not in my backyard, or we, devalue our property devaluation. And
yeah, I would say that, the people that are using the trails are your neighbors, are a lot of the people that you already know. And yeah, it's uncomfortable at first to have strangers in your backyard, but, over time you realize the benefits far outweigh anything negative. And the more eyes you can put, in this case where the 10 property owners were, it was a vacant piece of property, and there's no telling what was going on back there. But now it's very open, it's very public. Everybody, you see your neighbors, you see your neighbors' kids. So it's I don't think any of those 10 neighbors would regretted it for a minute having that in their backyard. So
Good. Yeah, kind of a similar example.
Matt, have you had some challenges in Fayetteville specifically where there's big aversion or, grassroots effort to stop a section of trail?
I like to work with property owners individually more than trying to have like a mob mentality.
Yeah, I guess
If I'm using the right word, just a group. Sometimes group thinking kind of. So just dealing with each property owner individually, and how their needs are varied. Maybe they need something different. And so like sometimes landscaping instead of a fence, which can be really nice, a landscape buffer or screening. I've heard everything. So
everybody is different, and some have concerns, and that you can address them pretty easy with a fence or evergreen trees or whatever it is, or just maybe a simple realignment shift. But everybody seems to be different, and usually you can find some common ground somewhere.
And of course, we're paying them too, which helps.
then
People like money in general. So
it does help. While we're talking about funding and resources, a lot of our listeners are from smaller or rural communities with big dreams but limited budgets. You alluded to it earlier about some of the different kinds of funding that would be out there. So when you're thinking about the smartest first move that they can make if they want to build a trail system, it sounded like master planning. Is there funding available for master planning for small communities?
Yes.
Okay. What can we talk a little more about that?
Those same grant programs that I mentioned, recreational trails, transportation alternatives, the planning is allowed, as part of it. You can get a grant through that to get started. Yeah, that's to have that planned.
So what for the Razorback Greenway, what were the main funding sources? Were they?
Oh, you had the Tiger 2 grant and then the Walton Family Foundation matching grant. So two $15 million grants to build it with the agreement from the cities that they would agree to maintain it. So there's the cities had an interest in it as well.
Yeah. And then like Fayetteville and Middenville, we already had sections. So we had at least 4 miles of the Razorback Greenway already built at that time. So
Okay, and being maintained.
And already maintained. So that was just like tying it on and extending it through Johnson. We already had it around Lake Fayetteville. So just kind of hooking in some of those pieces.
I think what we found, those connection pieces, what we found out early on was that you build a nice new facilities. It made the older sections like, ooh, that really needs to be upgraded, or people maybe not want to use those pieces that were existing. So it really made us, from that point forward, it's kind of set the standard of like, people would always ask, what's the best section to go ride? And I'm like, it's really the newer pieces.
Yeah.
Right?
North of Springdale downtown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through there.
Yeah.
Johnson.
That's right.
Those are from my favorites.
Me too.
I'll have to go check those out. One thing that is interesting, you guys have talked about community engagement and kind of people's opinions as they have evolved. So were there any surprising champions that came out to support you? Champions or influencers that popped up that maybe helped you gain momentum?
I'm thinking some from the health benefit side of things. So, the trails have so many benefits, the recreational, the transportation we talked about, health, and now economic development too. We're seeing more and more. So some of the more private sector, community healthcare areas were certainly champions. Yeah.
I think from, early on, it was if you're trying to route these trails through areas, it was a lot easier to route the trails through a commercial area or a retail area than it was through residential. And if you're trying to pick a path of like where to put this, the commercial people were a lot easier to deal with than the residential were.
And I was thinking about Mercy too. Mercy is a trail near campus.
Yeah, got a trail that and goes to the campus. Yeah.
So that was a champion there.
And that's kind of a unique thing. You may not think you're in a small community and you're like, who really could have a vested interest in this trail? I do think that some of the economic benefits have been really surprising and kind of surpassed people's expectations. So do you guys have any examples of how some communities have really thrived based on adding in pieces of the trail?
I think all the communities have benefited from the trail. Some have really benefited. Springdale,
Springdale downtown.
And I have a story. I remember one day, I don't know if you were there, we were eating lunch with the design team, and Chuck Flink told Patsy Christie, said, "Hey, this is going to transform downtown Springdale." And downtown Springdale at the time wasn't much.
Mm-hmm. They tried over the years.
They tried to
redismiss the street.
But the Razorback Greenway blew it up. I mean, it is. You go there today, and it's a totally different downtown. And I told Chuck years later, I'm like, dude, I thought you were crazy. I really thought you were crazy. And he laughed, and he goes, I knew it. I could see it. And I'm like, man, you nailed it. You were right. He was right.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. I think, when we finished it in 2015, there really wasn't any trail-facing, retail. But now you go up and down the trail, and there's little places to stop and have a beer, and restaurants and taco stands, and it's pretty cool. So I have no doubt that it has made a difference in the economics of the region.
There's lots of reports that are out about it that support that. And I think it's also really interesting to see that University of Arkansas has also been responding in the education offerings that they have regarding the economics for trails and trail development and trail construction. Have you guys noticed the impact of that?
Something that with the U of A campus, we have 34,000 people, and the Razorback Greenway actually goes in front, but it was just separated by only half a mile. So really excited that right now we're under construction on Maple Street, and it includes 8-foot sidewalks for the pedestrians and a 9-foot wide 2-way bike path that's directly connecting the Razorback Greenway into campus at Garland. So something we've been working on actually for 8 years on the design of this project, and some different funding sources didn't work out, but finally we were able to get secure funding through the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, so federal funding, and then matching with the university and the city, and so we're partnered together on it. Construction has been going well, so if you're in that area, that's what's being built, and next summer, hope to end of next summer, be finished in 2026.
That was the east-west terminal points on that.
So it goes from the Greenway on the east side by the historic bridge where the railroad
by west, close to
right by west, and is right by the railroad tracks, and then extends to Garland Avenue.
To Garland, okay.
And also there's already 10-foot side paths on Razorback Road and the rest of Maple, so that'll connect in. And then the university is really excited about their Oak Ridge Trail. They are going to be continuing that around, so actually having a loop around campus and with the trail.
Nice.
So very exciting.
How can smaller communities scale trail developments to match their budgets and needs without losing sight of long-term goals? You guys have touched on a lot here, but it's like really how can they keep moving forward? Every question we have asked today, I think the running theme that keeps coming up is keep trying. Our grant fell through, but we had a backup plan. And so here's what we did. Here's what we tried. We never really gave up. We just kept going after it. We've got a lot of small communities. They're writing grants, or they're about to write a grant. So it sounds like we've got master plan. And if they're really going to be looking at a grant, are there any tips or tricks to grant writing that might help them be more successful? Or kind of, if there's so much information, how do they sort it?
Yeah, something for the communities to keep in mind is they don't need a grant writer for these grants. The grants are different than maybe you would think, like, I have to be a perfect author, writer, kind of person. It's more about knowing the project and then including that passion about this is going to connect this number of people at this school, to this neighborhood that has 500 people. And this is a essential project for the infrastructure and breaking off pieces that are attainable. But yeah, as far as grant writing, I think just having somebody that's passionate on the staff that can write those, really kind of sell it by what it'll provide, what that trail will do.
Okay, so focus on the actual impact to your community and less on the physicality of the trail itself. Really know your community and bring those things up. Make sure that gets included in your why.
Yeah,
and for your.
And I think if you're a small community and you don't really have any infrastructure, go visit one that does. Go talk to the leadership there. Go talk to the people who did it, and get a good feel for it. So it goes all the way back to 25 years ago when people didn't know what we were trying to do, and you sometimes you just have to show them the benefits, and go visit these cities.
Yeah, Debbie, you asked earlier in that question about sort of backup plans if maybe a grant falls through, and how to keep the momentum alive, and I think y'all probably have experienced that at one point or another. So were there just sections that you said, okay, we're going to have to pause, or were there alternatives that you had access to? Alternatives like alternative funding sources.
Yeah, I mean this Maple Street example, it's about $10 million project, so it wasn't. We simply didn't have the money. So when the grants fell through, actually 3 times, different, we just kept trying, just keep trying, and then went through a different federal program, and then we're successful. We grouped the project too. So actually that award is part of 5 projects in the city of Fayetteville. That's part of a $25 million federal grant through the Safe Routes and their Safe Streets and Roads for All program. So yeah, just not giving up on that. I mean, we had it fully described, and there was in the back of my mind, like, well, what if this doesn't happen? Like,
You figured it out.
yeah, just keep trying.
What's the duration?
They'll take no for an answer.
Yeah, from we have an idea to we have a project. Give me an idea of duration. You said you went through 3 cycles before you were successful.
Oh, on that project, like I said, that project's been 8 years.
8 years in the
So a typical, probably project's about 2, I would expect, with grant funding. And I would say that.
Interesting.
In Fayetteville, too, with our crew, we have our in-house construction crew I mentioned earlier. We can move pretty quick on getting projects built. I wanted to mention that for the small towns, too. Like, a lot of times they have, crews or staff on the city, either through public works or something like that. And that can be a very cost-effective way to at least get something built to start. So maybe they could consider this model for Fayetteville with using our own staff, our own crews, has been very successful. I haven't really seen it other places.
I haven't seen it.
And I'm surprised by that.
You guys do great work.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are really, really have it down. And
They're as good as what, a contractor would be to do it.
yeah, and we were able to keep them, on staff, and then they learn it, and a more cost-effective model.
Now you're building your own team of trail.
Yeah, we built that. So like all the design things they know. I don't even have to be out there like, oh, we got to make sure it's less than 2% cross slope or 5%. And I'm like, oh yeah, we got this.
So you mentioned that is one strategy that a small community could use. Are there models or strategies from the Razorback Greenway project that could easily be adapted elsewhere? So I love the street crew idea. You're really looking at your own resources and what you have to start with. Looked at corporate champions and partnerships. Are there any other strategies that you guys?
Something else that's really helpful, and all of our city ordinances have it now, is that when development comes in, and so this is something the small community can do too. It's just a code in their development code that says, okay, you're putting in this new apartment building. We have on our master plan that we've got adopted, right? We already did our master plan. It says there's supposed to be a trail here. So we're going to actually ask you to build that as part of your project. And then you get a piece. And I was just noticing it right out here in Rogers. I mean, I'm seeing some pieces that says trail ins for now, and that'll get connected later. And so that has been really instrumental, because it's always so much more efficient and easier to build that piece of trail when that project's being built. I mean, and the right-of-way is taken care of as part of the project. It's designed in. Inevitably, if you don't, there is a utility box put right in the way. You noticed that?
And part of 2 of those projects where that expectation is alive, and so it's very effective. To your point, Matt.
Yeah, and that's a way to build that network out. And then the next one develops, and we hook in, or else the city says, okay, well, we can attain building little pieces of trail and connect these 2 that a development built.
From a planning perspective, one thing I've seen some of the cities do is incorporate the word recreation into utility easements. So when you've got a sewer line going up a drainage area where a lot of these trails go, they build in a recreational piece of it. So in the future, if those cities ever want to develop that into a trail, they already had the vehicle there to be able to do it. I thought that was super smart and cheap, right?
Doesn't cost
anything. So
it opens the door for the
more cities. I've only seen it in one city. I don't know if you guys do it in Fayetteville, but
we would require a multi-use trail.
There you go. That's right.
But we're actually asking to build it too and do the easement. But at minimum, those communities, if they felt like, oh, this is too much to ask, maybe, and it is based on how big of a project it's. If someone's remodeling their house, obviously they don't have to do that, and it's kind of a bigger project. But at least getting that easement, like you said, because that secures it for the future.
So in the easement discussion, talk about partnerships that were profitable in the whole, we're open to using the easement for a trail, and maybe some that are less
Yeah, so even on, this wasn't a part of the Razorback Greenway, but there's utilities out there that they're out across a big field. And, we start working with like, hey, we work with the city utility, and they're like, well, there's a sewer line going through here, you can use it. But if you make it 6 inches thick, you reinforce it, we can drive our trucks on it. That's great. That's access for us that we didn't have before. So sometimes these utilities are more apt to like, hey, let's work together.
Great point.
And even, the big power lines is the same way.
Yeah. That's been my experience with power companies.
Same way.
Say like all weather access, and absolutely whenever it's maybe a storm and it's wet, I mean they didn't get in there and fix it.
So it's dual purpose at that point. But again, it's you try to figure it out, work together, and look at those corridors for utilities, sewer, electric, sometimes water. They work well for trails.
So I just hear all these different ideas, and I'm thinking, as a small community, this would be really exciting, just because you're really starting to be able to think and brainstorm and really picture how they could make it happen, or at least get it started. One of the things I think that is very interesting in Bentonville, I'm sure Fayetteville as well, but you guys have such a strong biking culture and community. So has it always been like that? And if not, like, how did you guys encourage it? How did you?
I don't think I encouraged it, but when you put a facility out there that's safe, and again, it all goes back to safety. We have trails that people wouldn't cross roadways because they were busy. They might have 50,000 cars a day on it. You put a tunnel underneath the street, and then all of a sudden, well, we can ride from here to there. We can go 5 miles without crossing a street. And I think if you can put safe infrastructure out there, people will use it. And I don't, as far as encouraging people to use it, no, we didn't. They find it on their own. But again, it has to be safe. It has to be safe.
Yeah, it's kind of that old slogan, if you build it, they will come. And that's been the case. But if you build it right,
you got to build it right.
It's safe.
You have to build it right.
And don't give up on those intersections. I mean, that's where the small communities too, maybe if they're building a section, inevitably it kind of tries to end at where the hard part was, at one of the bigger roads. And that's where, the tunnels, I mean, the region also just really been great about getting great separated crossings. And that's the best for all safety.
Back to the safety comment.
Yeah.
Just one final, I love the fact that you, that this area is really put a lot of time and thought into creating useful websites and applications so that people can go in, they can really sort out the trail they want, they can pick the experience that they want. And I think that that's something that has made it a lot more accessible. So is there anything, I'm not really sure what the question is there.
Well, I could give just a kind of a plug out to the Razorback Greenway Alliance. That is a group of one member from each of the 7 cities that the Greenway goes through. And this is kind of a newer organization, but what we're working on is just keeping the Greenway at a very high bar, high level of quality from maintenance. We're redoing the mile marker post and the wayfinding signage, also running the website, the Greenway website and the mapping, and we even have some shirts and different things that you can get.
Yeah.
Just to really kind of promote it and really appreciate and take care of this amenity that we have.
Well, I think it's something that you guys should be incredibly, incredibly proud of. I know it's made such a big difference here.
So I'd like to jump in really quick, Debbie, if I can. So if you guys had 60 seconds to pitch to a small town mayor on why trails should be a priority, what would you say to them?
I would say that's what their community is going to be wanting. I mean, sure, they've already heard that if that's the case, because it feels like throughout at least Arkansas and really everywhere that that's what they want.
That's what they want. Yeah. You go to any community survey. I mean, we do community surveys all the time, and I feel like trails are up there toward the top all the time. Every one of them.
People like to be able to get outside and walk around,
go somewhere,
and then ideally get to their destination in a different way without always having to, get in their car and sit in traffic and all the things.
So when you think about how far we've come and you look 10 years into the future, what does success look like for trail connectivity in the United States? Do you see this catching on?
I don't see it slowing down. And again, I mentioned e-bikes earlier. More people are out on bikes now than ever. And you're appealing to basically all ages, all abilities now. And there was a barrier before. If some people couldn't physically ride a bike, and others were coming bikes and e-bikes. And again, there's more people. We're not making them big enough. I feel like nowadays they need to be wider, bigger. But I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. I don't.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the e-bikes. That's also really helpful in Fayetteville with our hills and topography. I mean, it's just like that is most people that are commuting, what we're finding, they're commuting by e-bike. That's pretty almost hands down. And then I want to mention too, in Fayetteville, our goal is to connect all the neighborhoods and all residents within a half mile of a trail, which is a 3-minute bike ride or like a 5-minute walk or 10-minute walk, I think. And so we're working really hard, and we're at like around 77, I think, % is what we have right now. So we're going to continue to connect those people, because really people don't want to load up their bike, especially an e-bike, which is pretty heavy, take it to a trailhead, go tool around. But ideally, when you can go from your house and be connected into the whole network.
Is there a moment during the journey that really sticks out to y'all? I mean, is there where you feel like the impact of the work was really having meaningful, powerful impact on the lives of the community?
I think for the Razorback itself, we celebrated there were 7 sections, and we celebrated every single one of them in every community. And I went to all of them, and it was overwhelming, just the support and the appreciation of what we did. But yeah, don't forget to celebrate the successes.
For sure. And I see it. You can kind of tell maybe that somebody using the trail wouldn't have been there if that facility wasn't there, and they're out there trying to be more physically fit or get to their destination. You see them carrying groceries and things like that maybe they didn't have that option to drive there, and it's expensive. Cars are expensive. I mean, any way around it, insurance, gas, everything. So just for me, it's very rewarding to be able to see that, wow, you know what, we created this and they're able to get to their destination or help, be more healthy. I've had people say like, oh my gosh, this trail saved my life, and so it would be a healthier region and better mobility and safer to get around.
Well, just the diversity is on the trail today. It's really fun to see. It's crazy.
So that's rewarding to me always. And I see them out there. I'm like, jeez, that's the goal. We did it in that way. And we're continuing to do it.
Keep going.
Well, I appreciate you guys so much. That was such a rich conversation. Thank you again, Matt, Aaron, and Ryan, for sharing not just the how, but also a lot of the whys behind successful trail development. So if you're part of a small community wondering if a trail can work for you, the answer is yes. Start small, think big, and find your champions. For resources, links, and show notes, head over to ceieng.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and leave us a review. It helps more community leaders and dreamers find us. Join me next time on Plans to Places, where we'll explore designing the fields of dreams for student athletes. Until then, keep planning, keep engineering, and keep moving forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.